Okay, so if you're working in procurement, you operate under, well, a pretty tough truth. Your whole operation, it's really only as strong as its weakest link, its weakest supplier. Today, we're doing a necessary deep dive into managing supplier risk. It's that hidden exposure that probably keeps a lot of chief procurement officers up at night. So let's define it first. Supplier risk is basically the vulnerability you face when a vendor, maybe through financial problems or operational issues or even external shocks, just fails to deliver.
Yeah.
And look, this isn't just some theoretical thing. This exposure costs millions. Critically, it really damages your reputation and, business continuity.
Exactly. And this is why visibility is just non-negotiable now. You see, analysts at major firms think Gartner, McKinsey, they consistently rank supplier risk management as a top CPO priority, ignoring it. It's kind of like driving without insurance these days. It really threatens your compliance, your continuity, and honestly, your whole financial stability if you get caught out.
Right. Let's maybe focus on, say, the big three risks that our sources show cause the most immediate and damaging kinds of disruption, starting with financial risk.
Financial risk hits hard, often because it strikes your smallest, maybe your most specialized partners first. We saw this very clearly during the recent, global inflation spikes. Small suppliers, they just couldn't absorb rising material or energy costs. They simply folded. And that left major buyers scrambling for replacements, which almost always meant, huge delays and price hikes.
Yeah, and connected really closely to that kind of volatility is the systemic threat of cybersecurity and data privacy risk. Suppliers are often the easiest way into your organization. I mean, you just have to look at the SolarWinds breach, right?
Yeah.
That one single vendor compromise. It cascaded into this massive global risk event. It affected hundreds of customers. It perfectly illustrates how your supplier's weak security is, functionally your weak security.
Absolutely. And then the third one procurement teams really have to grapple with now is ESG. That's environmental, social, and governance risk. This is where your reputation and regulatory threats really intersect. Think about brands tied to poor labor practices like forced labor deep in the supply chain. They face immediate public boycotts, yeah, but also significant regulatory penalties and, honestly, long-term damage to their name. This isn't soft reporting anymore. It's hard liability.
Okay, so managing that level of complexity, it demands way more than just, say, a quarterly review meeting. It needs a layered strategy. So how do we move from just identifying these risks to actually, mitigating them? How does modern procurement handle shifting away from relying on just one single source?
Well, the first and probably the most robust strategy is diversification. Over-reliance is basically the definition of being fragile. Our sources show that best practice is definitely a multi-source strategy. You really need at least 2 qualified suppliers for all your essential categories. But we have to be honest here, there's a trade-off. Multi-sourcing adds complexity up front, and sometimes it can raise unit costs. So the procurement pro has to build that case, right? Show that the ROI during just one inevitable disruption far outweighs those upfront costs. It's about resilience, really, not just optimization.
That makes a lot of sense. And once you've got that diversified roster, how do the leading teams prepare for those really unexpected things? I'm thinking about the war games our sources mentioned.
Right, that's scenario planning. It's about running rigorous simulations. It really exposes hidden weaknesses you didn't know you had. You're not just making a contact list. You're actively testing contingency plans. Like, okay, if supplier A, maybe they're in a geopolitical hotspot, shuts down tomorrow, who exactly in supplier B's team do you call? How long does activation actually take? It shifts risk management from being just, theoretical to being muscle memory, a real response. And the final piece, maybe more of a soft skill, is collaboration and transparency. Procurement has to start treating critical suppliers like, genuine partners. That means sharing solid forecasts, demand plans, maybe months ahead. That helps them manage their capacity, adjust staffing, address bottlenecks proactively. It significantly cuts down on the chaos from last-minute scrambles.
Okay, this is where the conversation kind of shifts from just mitigation to real foresight. Technology. We're seeing supplier risk management move out of manual spreadsheets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And into these predictive systems.
The speed of disruption today just requires instant response. It really does. So modern platforms enable real-time risk monitoring. They scrape global data, everything from credit ratings, regulatory filings, even negative social media sentiment, and they trigger alerts instantly. You're just not waiting for a quarterly review anymore to find out about some major event that's already happened.
And how deep can that foresight actually go?
Yeah.
Can these systems predict, say, financial distress or an impending failure before it's public knowledge?
That's really the power of AI and predictive analytics now. AI can synthesize all these different data streams that, honestly, no human team could analyze fast enough. It's looking at commodity prices, shipping manifests, geopolitical stuff, financial ratios, all at the same time. It doesn't just spot a pattern, it estimates the probability and the potential impact of a disruption before it happens. It gives you those early warning signals so procurement can actually step in. And this is all made smoother by workflow automation. That takes over the repetitive stuff, the time-consuming tasks like constantly collecting, checking, flagging exceptions for compliance certificates. It frees up the team to focus on the strategic thinking, the mitigation, rather than just, manual admin work.
Right, so the core message here seems pretty powerful. Managing supplier risk isn't about the impossible goal of zero risk. It can't be. It's really about building institutional agility, building foresight, so that when disruptions inevitably happen, and they will, your operation doesn't get completely knocked off course.
Precisely. Agility and foresight.
So, given the increasing speed, the complexity of digital events, geopolitical shifts, we want to leave you, our listener, with this final thought to chew on. If your critical supplier due diligence is traditionally refreshed, maybe annually or perhaps quarterly, how quickly must procurement teams refresh that check now to keep pace with today's risk environment? The clock is definitely ticking faster.